All right, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday press conference 2024 Texas State Disc Golf Championship. We're here at Brock Park, and we've got a new guest for you guys. We've got Max Diggs. Max, how long have you worked for the Disc Golf Pro Tour? What's your job title? Introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, yeah, I'm Max. I started with the tour last year, 2023, at the beginning of the season. My current role is venue experience supervisor in the operations department. And what that looks like is basically helping set up the course, tear down the course before and after the tournament. And then during the actual events, you'll usually see me at the ticketing booth, getting our spectators greeted and telling them what they're in for the day.
What time of the week do you guys get here? Like, what you just worked last week at U.S. Women's, the week before in Austin? Like, what's the flow look like for you? Are you getting here on Monday and just starting to set up?
So this year we had a smaller team go to U.S. Women's, and I, along with a few of our other staff, came straight here from Austin. So we actually got here earlier last week, middle of last week, and we started setting up Friday. So this season we have a lot of more of those weekends off before our bigger tournaments, so we have a lot more time to really look through the course, make sure we get it set up in the best possible way.
And are you coordinating with the local club about like hole specific stuff? Like, are they asking you guys like, hey, where do we line this OB? Or do you kind of give them the freedom to, you know, put the OB line depending on where the spectator ropes are going to be? How's that coordination look?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of collaboration between us and the local clubs. They do a lot of the pre-work, trying to building out the courses, and then we have usually our site lead, which for this event is Phil, and he's checking. And we all kind of did this weekend, help check through the caddy books, make sure the OB matches what the players are seeing in the caddy book, so that there's no surprises, and making sure that there's some fair landing zones and spots and tighter OB maybe when it's necessary.
Cool. Yeah. So one thing the Disc Golf Pro Tour has been trying to implement is the spectated practice days. Can you kind of expand on what that looks like and what your role is with that?
Sure, yeah. So with venue experience, I help on the ground I have a big role in that experience for our spectators. So what that usually looks like on Thursday for a 3-day event and then Wednesday for our 4-day events is it's kind of like a much more casual look at how players, especially last minute, prepare for the tournament they're about to be competing in. It starts around noon, and then they can be here for the rest of the day. Spectators can expect to be able to view the press conference when it's in a viewable spot, as well as get like a general admission access to the whole course and see a lot of their favorite players warming up. Two of our big initiatives this year are doing a feature practice card. So having up to 4 players come out, and they are aware that they'll be spectated, and these spectators will get like a VIP experience for that card. But it's much more casual. There's no cameras. They can get a little closer. The players who have opted into this are really excited to like interact with the fans and answer questions and talk. And then the other really cool thing we're doing this year is we're adding in some clinics. So competitors in the tournament will be running clinics sometimes before these as well, where they can go over some, putting techniques or maybe backhand versus forehand, and then ideally show them off in that feature round as well. So they can really like show the spectators exactly what they're teaching, which I think is really cool.
Cool. And what should someone expect as far as the ticketing experience? Like, can someone just show up and get a ticket at a Disc Golf Pro Tour event? Like,
Usually, yes. The best way to guarantee a VIP ticket is to buy ahead of time. Those are the ones that usually sell out the quickest. But it's definitely, we sell a lot of tickets at the gate, especially on weekends like this that are beautiful. Like, people decide last minute, like, oh, it's going to be an amazing Saturday or Sunday. It's really exciting. Like, all the excitement's coming to a close on Sunday, and people show up, and we typically have at least general admission. Sometimes we'll have VIP tickets available as well.
Cool. Thanks, Max.
Yeah, for sure.
Hello, Max.
Hey, Brian.
A few questions for you.
Yeah.
You're a disc golfer yourself. You're a pretty darn good disc golfer. So clearly you're not here just because it's a job. You love the sport of disc golf as well as a player. What's your story? What's your background getting into this sport, and how did you fall in love with it?
Wow, that's a great question. So disc golf was introduced to me about 10 years ago by a friend I was working at a summer camp with. I actually went to UC Santa Cruz and didn't know disc golf existed until after, so I missed 4 years of day law, which is a big bummer. Been back a few times since.
Huge bummer.
Yeah, huge bummer. Yeah, I know. But then I played pretty recreationally for a few years. I went in and out. I took a year off. My bag got stolen. I took some time off, and then I jumped back into it. And then I decided my passion was growing. I decided to try to get involved with my local club, and did that. And then that led to me helping run our weekly events, beautifying our course, and doing whatever it takes to make our club really inviting for all the people in our area. And then started competing right around COVID time. My wife and I both did. We both got our PDJ numbers right around the same time. We played a tournament. We realized we actually did okay on the competing, so we quickly moved our way up. We're both playing in the MPO and FPO divisions right now. Well, I don't have a lot of time to compete anymore, but when I am able to compete, I'm playing in the MPO division. So it's really fun getting to see, obviously, a different level of play week in and week out on these courses. And whenever I get a chance, I obviously try to play them as much as I can.
Well, I want to know your perspective operationally. We have this counterbalancing effect. We have these really tight, awesome wooded courses, and then tough spectator viewing. It's kind of this back and forth when we choose venues and set up venues for the tour. What is your viewpoint or your opinion on how things have been evolving over time? And are there any ideas that you have to kind of push this even farther in the future?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's unfortunate that a lot of the disc golf that most people would say is their favorite type of disc golf, or at least the people that I've interacted with most, is the golf that is also the hardest to spectate. Wide open golf is maybe a little bit more boring to watch, some people might say at times, but we can fit so many spectators and they can get close, and so that makes it a little easier to get more people watching, but it does kind of change the types of shots that we can create on the course. Yeah, I think there's an ideal world when courses start being designed for spectators. I think we're still a lot of the time using courses that are historic and legendary and are amazing, but they weren't built for thousands of spectators.
Exactly.
One day we'll get there where we can build or carve a wooded course that has those. I think we did a lot of work at the local crew as well as ourselves at Nevin last year for Tour Championships, which is a very wooded course, but we were able to carve out some of the sides to make the viewing experience much advanced, which I think is a good look into the future of what the sport can look like.
Well, Max, I know you got a busy week ahead. You got a busy season ahead, my friend. Thank you so much for sharing your story and kind of what's going on here on the tour. We'll see you out there this week.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
And we'll be right back in just a few.
All right, we'd like to welcome Sai Ananda to the press conference here at Texas State's. Sai, it was a year ago, right over there, that I got to interview you after you became a champion on the tour. What does Brock Park spark in your memory when you returned here?
Honestly, like as I've been playing like the practice rounds and stuff like that, a lot of fun. Like I found myself like coming to holes and like, oh, this is the one where Ohn was like singing her Miley Cyrus song, or like, you know, I found myself like recalling so many fond memories. And then I actually got to hole 17, and that's when like I was like, oh, this must have been where the nerves keyed in for me, because once I got to hole 17, I was recalling like all of the stressful memories. So throughout the round, like 1 through 16 was all bubbly and positive and fun, and then 17 came and I was like, oh, I remember the stress. I remember my heart on this one. I remember the straddled approach shot, and like all of the intensity kind of came till at like the end of the course, and it was interesting to kind of like walk with myself a little bit going through it.
Do you remember the golfer that you were last year? Are you any different of a golfer right now?
That's actually a really interesting question. I didn't think that I was that much of a different golfer. The off season kind of can go by very quickly, you know, and it feels like you're on to the next season and kind of moving forward. But as I came up to a lot of the holes, I actually thought like, this seems smaller than I thought it was last year, or this seems a little bit closer, or this seems a little bit more achievable. I'm throwing a mid-range instead of a fairway on some of the holes. So I feel like as I'm here, I am maybe witnessing like a little bit of growth. You know, nothing ever doesn't change, but nothing changes much, kind of.
So you're throwing further.
A little. Well, I don't know, maybe more confidently.
And is that, you know, a conscious improvement? Where did you go back to Washington this offseason thinking, hey, I want to be able to throw the disc a little faster?
No, honestly, a lot of my off season was really focused on like mental restoration and really just kind of taking time to relax and like process all of the intensity that was really experienced throughout the year. And it was actually kind of like surprising as I came back to the courses, like at US Women's. I came back kind of not knowing if that distance was still going to be on par or if there was going to be a little rust to kind of shake off. And honestly, there has been a little less rust than anticipated.
Yeah.
And it feels really nice.
What did you learn from your 14th place finish at US Women's?
Oh man, not to sweat the little things.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Are you happy with that finish coming out to start your year with the major? Really rare for any athlete to come start at the biggest event, long way from home. How do you feel about that finish?
I hadn't really thought about that perspective too, traveling so far away and such a large event, but honestly, US Women's brings so much like positivity, I think, that I always really look forward to it, and there's hardly any ever like nerves, I feel like, going to US Women's. So even though it was a big major, it was a very friendly big major to kind of start with. And honestly, to have like the 1,000 rated round right off the bat definitely surprised myself on that one. That was not something that I was expecting at all, and I think the last 2 rounds were closer to what my performance was anticipated to be. So 14th was, in a field of 100 women, fantastic.
Cool. Thank you, Sai.
Hi, Sai.
Hi.
A few questions for you. I've been asking this question to quite a few players out on the tour, especially players that have been winning these tournaments. When you felt like you were the most focused last year, try to bring yourself back to that flow state. What does that level of focus feel like to you when it feels like you can do no wrong? Is it an intense feeling? Is it a calm feeling? What is it for you?
It probably, I don't know, I feel like it's intensity and calmness maybe on like the same sides of a coin, you know, because at a certain point you do feel very calm. It seems like, you know, if anybody else has experienced that state, if it feels the same for them, it does feel like there's a level of like the air is kind of still, you know, like the putters are just flying and you're mentally really are calm and focused, but at the same time you're calm and focused like on the top of a wave. So there is a lot of intensity that you have to maintain that calmness as you like persevere through. So it's intense, but I think it is a really fantastic to have that human experience in just a little game of disc golf.
Some players seem to really not like the stressful situations out on the disc golf course. Gannon Bird jokingly always says how much he hates pressure, but some players seem to really love it. How do you feel about those moments when you think back to the time that you were competing last year?
I think those moments are really formative. You know, to hate the pressure is almost to like, I mean, not to, I don't want to like to talk bad, but like to hate the pressure is kind of almost to hate the game. Those moments where I have felt the most pressure and the most intensity and the most desire to like rise to the occasion, those are some of the most formative moments that I've had in my career, kind of.
Well, Sai, thank you so much for that clarity. You always seem to bring us into your mental game so clearly. But one more question for you.
Absolutely.
Hi, Sai.
Hi.
Juliana Korver, Disc Golf Network. Last year, you followed the tour all season. This year, I see that you're registered to play through the Beaver State, but not beyond. Will this be an abbreviated tour for you?
Well, this year definitely took a little bit of a different shape. Last season, being my first year on tour, certainly took a lot of energy, and it took a lot of commitment and dedication. And so I think as I look at my career from a longer perspective, I realize that I can't go 100% for the next 10 years of my life. So what this year is going to be is more of a reinvestment into my local community and more of a reinvestment into myself, and hopefully to have another flow as I kind of swing into my next season.
That is a very mature answer and beautiful, and I really like how you speak to the fact that it is very difficult to be on tour, though it seems romantic from the outside world. So do you feel, now that you're saying that you're going to stay at home a little bit more this year to try to reinvest in yourself, do you feel that pull to be on the road?
Yes.
Or is it an obligation?
As I was following Paige and her like recovery from her injury last year, she kind of mentions that fear of missing out, and I feel like it's a really big feeling in disc golf because it's not just the golf that you miss, it's your friends, it's the community, and it's the cool places, it's the destinations and the restaurants that you want to go meet and stuff like that. So I really definitely feel that pull, but I think that pull, I'm only going to use it to kind of invest and fuel the energy for further endeavors.
Can we expect to see you at Worlds?
Yes.
Excellent. You are a ray of sunshine in the field, and you will be missed when you're not out here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juliana.
And with that, we'll be back in just a few.
Thank you.
All right, we'd like to welcome Calvin Heiberg to the press conference. Thanks for being here, Calvin.
Yeah.
Before we talk about this week's event or last year's event here at Brock Park, I actually want to take us 2 weeks back to the Open at Austin event. We haven't actually spoke to you since the conclusion of that one. Do you feel like you found your groove again during the final round of that tournament?
I don't know if I felt like I found a groove. I mean, I was definitely throwing the disc really well out there. And I mean, I guess I was in a groove. I think really the thing for me last weekend, or whatever, the last tournament was I putted really well. You know, I capitalized on all my Circle 1 opportunities out there, which is kind of what I had to do because I wasn't going to give myself as many opportunities not throwing any forehands on that course. So I think I threw the disc really well backhand. You know, I tried to scramble as best I could without the forehand, and then being perfect from Circle 1 really helps you score at any tournament.
I really want to zoom in on a couple things, Calvin. The putt on 17, I was standing right behind you, and you know, it was 45 feet after a near ace right there. And from what I saw, it looks like you have a completely different routine. You know, in years past, we haven't seen you take as many pump fakes with the right arm. Like, is that something conscious that you changed, or is that? Can you expand on if it even feels like a new routine for you?
Yeah, it's definitely a little different. I don't think it was like a conscious decision of doing that. It just kind of, you know, it's what felt right, and it just kind of helped me get in the rhythm, and it was working all weekend, so just kind of kept rolling with it, and yeah, it definitely is a little different than how you've seen me putt in the past,
yeah.
But yeah, I think as far as getting ready to putt, it's really just about getting in the right, you know, mental headspace, and whatever gets you there is what you should do, and that's what was getting me there.
So is that something that just arose that weekend? You weren't doing that same kind of routine in previous tournaments this year?
I don't think I was doing that in any previous tournament.
Cool.
It's just
cool.
It felt right. So.
Well, I've got to ask you about 18. I mean, you knew where you were at in the tournament. You knew that you needed a par or better to have a chance, and you kicked OB into an impossible spot. You then threw an unbelievable shot to just outside the circle. Can you walk us through that putt, what it felt like to be in that situation again?
Yeah, I mean, I knew walking up to that putt that, you know, I needed to make it. There was just one little tree kind of in my way, kind of forced me to straddle out to the left-hand side, which I was a little uncomfortable with. I hadn't really had to do that at all, you know, earlier in the day, and it was definitely my worst putt of the day. It low right, never really had a chance, but you know, it was cool giving myself the chance to have a putt after a really errant tee shot. So just a bad putt, and you know, it wouldn't have mattered in the end, I guess, but it would have been nice to have made it.
How much different is Calvin Heiberg the golfer now versus a year ago when you dominated this tournament?
Well, I think we're pretty similar. I mean, this course in particular, I feel pretty confident in attacking with backhands. The course hasn't changed very much, and it's really just about you know, keeping it in bounds and then giving yourself looks. And I think there's a lot of kind of low ceiling shots that kind of favor my style pretty well. So I don't know. I feel confident at this course, but you know, obviously I'm a little different because I'm not throwing any forehands. But
Cool. Thanks, Calvin.
Hi, Calvin.
Hey.
Want to key in on a couple things that you just said. You're still not throwing any forehands this week, correct? We've seen with players, I think Eagle McMahon comes to mind, straying away from the forehands and then developing other parts of his backhand that we hadn't really seen before. Has this process of just throwing backhands opened your eyes to other shots that you haven't had to throw before, or maybe recently?
Yeah, I don't think it's opened my eyes. I think, you know, there was a while where I didn't really use the forehand except for like scrambling up shots, and I think that was kind of my game for a long time, was really not relying on the forehand, and it hasn't been until, you know, really recently in the past couple of years that I really started throwing it a lot more off the tee. So I don't think it's opened my eyes to new shots. It's just, you know, made me revisit, kind of how I played a little more in the past, with more backhands, and then, nothing new. I mean, I guess I've been messing around a little more with some rollers, but I really haven't busted those out. But that would be the only thing that I feel like I've been working more on, not throwing any forehands.
Is that something that we're going to see quite a bit from you moving forward, like really low emphasis on the forehand and more rollers coming out? Or do you feel like you're trying to rehab to get the forehand back?
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to rehab to get the forehand back. I don't think you can't really replace a forehand with a roller or another shot. I mean, it's just like being able to throw through the air, you can control so much more than rolling on the ground. So, it's something I will use if I need to right now, but ideally, in the future, we have the forehand again.
What does rehab look like for you? Are you doing anything specific, like physical therapy or anything like that?
Yeah. I got a set of exercises that I'm working on every day, as well as just increasing blood flow to the area and icing. So just your standard rehab for kind of a tendonitis style injury.
So, and that's confirmation that this is probably just overuse tendonitis, nothing torn, nothing serious?
I mean, I don't have any scans to confirm that, but there's nothing telling me it's something more than that as of now.
Well, really, I just have one last question for you, Calvin. Coming into a tournament, field is just continuously getting better and better. So many young players are starting to come up and show off their ceilings. Does that excite you to have more competition than ever before?
Yeah, I mean, it's always exciting when, the field's pushing the field to get better, and it makes for more exciting finishes, and, you're going to see people winning from farther and farther down the leaderboard because the scores will hopefully get more compressed. So, I mean, I think it's pretty exciting as a player, just knowing that you can never really let off the gas and that every shot matters. It definitely makes it more, like, mentally stimulating to play. So, yeah, it's always exciting to watch the field get better.
Sorry, I do have one last question for you, actually. There's always talk of you throwing the trusty molds in your bag that you've had for quite some time. Do you cycle a lot of new discs in and out of your bag? Like, how different is your bag now than it was last year when you won this tournament?
I mean, the molds are pretty much the same. I think, like, the only new mold of disc in my bag would be a Rock X3. But the discs definitely do get cycled through. I mean, it's not like I have the same 3 Eagles this year as I did last year. I mean, they break in and start to fly different. So my bag, I mean, it pretty much looks the same because, I mean, I just have stacks of the same discs that I cycle through, but they're definitely different Frisbees.
How many of those pale orange Eagles do you have?
Not so many of those ones left. I maybe have a half dozen of those, but I got a bunch of red ones and a couple other colors as well.
And they suffice?
Yep, those work as well.
Thanks, Calvin. We'll see you out there this week.
Thank you.
We'll be back in just a few.
All right, we'd like to welcome Ricky Wysocki to the press conference. Rick, you put your house up on Airbnb. You hooked up the trailer. You hit the road. How you feeling?
Feels good. I got the property management companies taken over, so I don't have to worry about that. I put all my stuff in the garage, lock the garage up, and yeah, so it's kind of a cool experience to be able to rent my house out while I'm on the road, and hopefully a couple disc golfers can rent it out and have a little disc golf paradise for themselves.
It would be so much fun to have like your bachelor party, over there with all your disc golf homies. It sleeps like 14, right? So
yeah, we got a bedroom with like two sets of bunk beds on it, and then a couple, 4 other bedrooms with a couple beds there, here and there, and couches. I'm always having disc golfers stay at the house, so I've always stayed at people's houses growing up through the disc golf ranks, and now that I'm able to be in a spot where I can buy a house myself, I'm returning the favor. And I've already hosted lots of disc golfers. Cupcake stays there. Adam Hammis comes and stays for the off season, and just lots of disc golfers. Even a Masters player, a friend of mine, Mike Ward, he plays like MP60, and he's stayed there before as well. So I just opened it up to a lot of different people. So
what's the road life look for you this year, Ricky? I think this is year 11, just like full time on the road. What are you traveling in?
Yeah. So for me, it's just I have a truck and a trailer, and we put a lot of storage, cooking stuff, obviously lots of suitcases and discs and all kinds of goodies in the trailer, and that allows us to have a lot more space than just a truck. And then I like Airbnbs. I'm able to cook and just have my own space, and pick the location close to courses potentially, and not have to drive super far around the city. And so that just makes me feel the most comfortable. And for me, really the most focus is just keep my body healthy, keep eating healthy, stretching, doing little core workouts, core exercises to keep the core strong. I think that's important for disc golf to prevent injuries and just injury prevention. I know this game's hard on the body. I know I heard Calvin talking about elbow injuries, and that's just something that's, as an athlete, it doesn't matter how much you stretch and practice. If you overwork and overthrow and just throw as much as we do, which is what you have to do to stay at the top level, sometimes taking a rest, you set yourself back as far as where your game's at. So it's a tough balance between practicing as much as you need to keep your game at a high level, but also not injuring yourself.
Yeah. Can you expand on your decision to not play the Elite Series event in Austin?
Yeah, so like you said earlier, a part of it was the Airbnb that I had. I had to go back and pack my house up. I'd been staying there all off season and had to pack up all the stuff. And second thing is also there's just so many tournaments, and I don't want to burn myself out too early. More of it's mentally than more than physically.
Okay.
And so it's one event. I mean, it's really, it's a great event, and I'm sure it was a great week. But for me, it's, I play a lot of tournaments, and if there's, one event that I miss here or there, I'm fine with it. I think that, there's only 10 or 12 events that qualify for the finals at the end of the year, and so you don't necessarily have to play every event. And so, I just think it's good for me to kind of let myself progress into the season and not burn myself out early.
Yeah. Ricky, what is it about the state of Texas that you think allows you to be so dominant? And I actually want to throw in a little snippet. The very first disc golf tournament that I ever watched in person was actually the 2014 Texas State Championship, and the first round I ever watched was your round in the Wynn. Do you remember that? I think it's still one of your highest rated rounds of all time over there. But you've won, Ricky, 6 times, I believe, at 5 different venues. What is it about this state?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that, I feel like, I guess I've got a lot of fans here, and I'm a player that definitely feeds off energy, as most people know. I play well when I have crowds rooting for me and bringing the energy, and that's something that, I think Texas does. I think it just feels homey here. As we've played all throughout the state. The Texas State Championships definitely changes venues pretty frequently over the years, and so I think it's just having that kind of hometown feel, even though it's not my home state, is something that's very comforting, even when I'm in the highest pressure situations.
Cool. Thanks, Rick.
Yeah.
Hello, Rick.
What's up, Brian?
A few questions for you. Talking about your house going on Airbnb, I'm not going to talk about it for too long, but just remember hearing from people that have played against you for a long time that when you were first getting out there on the road, you were doing anything you could to save money around every corner. Does that, number one, does that come from growing up in kind of a large family? And then number two, are you still like that, even with the big contracts and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been someone that's, pretty smart, try to be smart with my money and make good investments. And, of course, there's things here and there I like to splurge every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, the big house, really, the biggest thing behind it, obviously it's nice to have a big, nice house. But it's obviously for myself, but it's also for players. Like I was telling Nate, I'm hosting people. It's not just for me. I'm hosting parties for, I'm inviting local disc golfers to the house for New Year's parties, and just complete strangers into the house just because they're disc golfers. And, that's kind of just how I am. And I just feel like it's kind of my due diligence as I've, progressed in the ranks to kind of give back and, kind of a full circle moment for myself.
Slept on plenty of floors yourself, so giving some space for other people.
Exactly. Got to have the floor space available.
Yeah. Rick, you posted recently that you're working on your form. You were working on some technique stuff. Anything specific, or was it more just generalized field work, kind of fixing the timing? Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of both, like a little bit of form, a little bit of just, hip turn and shoulder turn, getting a little more shoulder turn into it, and then also incorporating shoulder turn as well as hip turn into the shot. I think for me, something every once in a while I do notice is I'll a very slight miss early release, and it's not something super super bad. It's just a little bit of a timing thing every once in a while that I feel. And so, yeah, I just kind of focusing on that and really just working on that little things. I mean, just like anything, you're always trying to find little ways to get better. And so that's kind of how disc golf is. That's the beauty of it. That's why we all love it. Is as soon as you feel like you have it mastered, there's something that pops up that you're like, all right, I'm early releasing. What can I do to get better? And then, maybe it's something else. Maybe your grip or your, up shots. There's always a part of your game that can get better. And that's something that I love, the quest of trying to perfect something that's almost unperfectible. Yeah. It's still golf, and it's tough.
Well, I wanted to bring something up. Last year, the big thing that I noticed was you were starting to throw towards the end of the year more hyzer flip with the driver, whereas you generally seem to like going flat or even a little bit of flex. How different is the timing on throwing hyzer flip versus throwing a flex shot? Is it any different for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I think that a flex shot is definitely a little bit different timing than a hyzer flip, like you said. So it's kind of two different shots, and your timing has to be different on both shots. So it's kind of something you got to be able to tap into and say, hey, all right, my time, this shot I need to have a hyzer flip timing versus a flex, because you're kind of holding onto it a little bit longer and kind of dragging it on Annie, whereas a hyzer flip's almost like a controlled early release that hyzer flips with a flippy disc. And so that's kind of the difference. And so timing's so important. So just being able to make in-game adjustments and being able to have that feel is so important for players that throw both shots.
Well, and you just kind of mentioned it, but I want to double check with you. When you throw hyzer flip off the tee or you throw flex off the tee, do you just tell yourself, okay, it's hyzer flip mode? Are there any extra swing thoughts, or is it simple like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's stuff that kind of you practice throughout the week on that hole. I mean, that's a lot of it too. Is we're able to play 3-4 rounds and throw that shot 10, 20 times before the tournament. So you're able to say, hey, all right, as soon as I step up to this hole, this is what I want to do. And that's why practice rounds are so important, is because you're working on that stuff. Even if you're maybe not good at that shot, you have a whole 3 or 4 days before the tournament to get good at it. And I think that's what makes a good professional, is being able to pick up stuff quickly. And that's why it's so important, when we're playing a new course every week, to be able to do that.
Cool. Well, Rick, thanks for the clarity. Appreciate it. Good luck out there this week.
Thanks, Brian.
We'll be right back in just a few.
All right, we'd like to welcome Nicholas Antila to the press conference. And Nikke, what does it feel like, man? How is the preparation any different now that you're a champion? Is anything different in your life?
At the same, no and yes. I think I was lucky to have an off week after I won. Do some different stuff, see some NBA, also throw some disc golf, but not need to like think too much about. I need to prepare for a tournament or stuff. I got some time off and got to do some different things as well.
Just not quite enough time to go back to Finland and celebrate with everybody, right? I can't wait for that time to come for you, and who knows, maybe you'll have some more titles under your belt. How do you feel about Brock Park this week?
I feel it's almost the same as last year. There is some more OB. They also brought some baskets like back and some tee pads longer. I feel like it's a good course for me as well. You need to pick your landing spots and hit your putts as always. So I feel like it somehow feels the same as Lake Waco we played a couple weeks back.
Yeah, in the sense that you have a little bit more airspace and the par fours, a little bit of distance control.
Yeah, for sure. And I also feel like we have like 3 short par 3s, hole 7, I think that should be like 13 and then 16. So you kind of feel like you need to bury those holes because they're so short, and all of the par 4s are like, if you get your tee shot right, it's not like too difficult, but also if you go OB or stuff, the bogeys come pretty fast.
Yeah. Nicholas, have you seen the Anthony Barella impression circling the internet right now? First question, how spot on is that impression? What did you think of it?
It's pretty accurate. I have seen it maybe like 3 times now, and every time he makes me laugh. Yeah, he's a funny guy, and I think he's also like so good doing like David Feldberg and almost all of the guys, so that's funny.
Do you remember at what point in your disc golf growth that you stuck with that form and ran with it? Do you recall, or was there ever a moment where it was a conscious decision to go with that style?
For me, it has always like felt the same. I don't feel like I have been doing anything different. Of course, I have been learning like YouTube and stuff from different people, but I feel like it has always felt the same for me. So I haven't done like any big changes or stuff. So I think that's the secret as well for me, that I'm maybe not the longest thrower on the course, but I can hit the gaps, and I feel like myself when I'm throwing.
Was there a player or a set of players that you were inspired by when you said you were watching YouTube? Were there some forms that you liked better than others that you recall?
Yeah, I was watching Paul McBeth and Simon Lizotte a lot. And I also thought like about this in the tour life, that in my mind I felt like I was doing such like Paul is doing, and then I was watching the video and it was like so different, so that was kind of funny.
All right, thanks Nicholas. Here's Brian Earhart.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Niklas, hello.
Ciao.
You have not finished outside of the top 10 all season so far, and a lot of people are talking about your performance at Austin. After you hit the ace, you showed no emotion whatsoever. You almost looked a little angry, and people online were saying, I kind of like angry Niklas. How much better of a player do you feel this year compared to last year? Do you feel like you've made big strides?
I feel like I'm just more consistent, and I have always been like accurate off the tee, but I feel like I have been good with like fast drivers this year. I can hit my DD3s on a good line almost every time, and that's important on these courses. I feel like anything between like 400 and 450 is like important distance for me at the moment, and I just feel like I enjoy disc golf, and it's easy that way.
You always say that you're not the farthest thrower. How far do you actually throw? Can you crack over 550? How far can you put it out there?
On a golf line I can do maybe like 490, maybe 500 on a good day, but I almost never do that. In tournament I can do like 450 with like good confidence.
You got to spend some time at an NBA game. You got to see Lauri Markkanen, one of your fellow Finns. How close are you and Vino and those guys to Markkanen? And have you guys played disc golf with him before?
No, actually, I met him once before. He's a super good guy, super chill. We went to play disc golf as well. He's into disc golf and he's like so down-to-earth guy. We went to see two of his games, one in Dallas and one in Houston, and it was like so nice.
Now, are you going and surprising him, or is he asking you guys to come out to the games and watch? Like, what is that like?
I don't really know. I think Vaina was texting with him, but he was like super welcoming, inviting us to watch his games, and even though he wasn't playing in the Houston game, he still invited us to come watch and see him in person. So, yeah, that was super nice for sure.
Are there any other Finnish, big-time athletes that you guys are close with and kind of have mutual respect with?
Not as big as Lauri, I think. Lauri is actually the first Finnish player to play in the NBA, so he's like a big star in Finland. And I feel like when it comes to like Finnish athletes, everybody is like so close. It doesn't matter like if you play disc golf or basketball or football or anything. It's like we are all athletes and we kind of share the same mindset.
I want to go back to you talking about distance drivers. You said you've gotten better with the DD3, your disc of choice. Clearly you have. How much work are you putting in with just that speed of disc, and how important is it to have the perfect stability in your bag? Are you picky?
Yeah, I'm picky. I've been throwing almost the same stuff for like 2 years now. Of course, there is like a couple discs that I need to. If I have like a PD2, I like it to be overstable, but all of those DD3s have been in my bag for like 2 years or now. So I know those discs so well that I know what to do, and it's never the disc, it's always me.
Are there any discs in your bag that are getting close to being too beat in? Are you going to have to start looking for some substitutes soon, or are they pretty good right now?
I think people saw me throw the second run FD last year with the Huck Lab stamp. That's no longer in my bag. That's kind of sad, but I found a good FD to replace that one, so I'm not sad.
It's always sad to let one go.
Yeah.
Well, Niklas, good luck out there this week. I'm sure we'll see you.
Thanks, appreciate that.
And we'll be right back in just a few. You should have said that was your new driver.
Yes.
I am sponsored by...
All right, we'd like to welcome Ohn Scoggins to the press conference. Ohn, how are we feeling this week?
I'm feeling okay, it's just nervous. I heard it's wind gonna coming tomorrow and the next day and whole weeks.
Well, when you say nervous, I mean, what specifically are you afraid of? That your destroyer isn't going to be stable enough? That someone else might make more putts than you?
The putting.
Here's the deal. If it's windy, I would tag you in every time. I think a lot of people in your division would prefer to tag you in.
You will lose your money in the windy. I just not good with the putting in the wind. Every time when it's windy, I miss a lot. Like Waco, last week, whatever windy day, I miss so many putts more than any day, you name it. Last week I missed probably like 4 or 5 putts, like even inside because it's windy. Because where I live, it's not much windy.
Yeah.
So we not practice putt in the wind much.
In SoCal.
Yeah. Especially I putting inside my house.
Yeah.
Like I don't have backyard. Like I just put my basket inside the hallway and I putt inside my house, so it's zero wind.
Yeah.
That's why when I come out here I have a hard time. So I try to putt in the wind and I just keep up. I don't know. That's my big problem.
Well, your next investment needs to be an industrial fan that goes indoors and you can practice putting in the wind.
Well, Dad, you can put money on me.
Yeah.
But not outside windy. So that's why I think I think driving will be a problem, but not a big problem like putting for me. That thing is just a big boss for me.
Well, let's talk about the wind and putting a little bit more, Ohn. How much do you consider what side of the basket you're going to land on when it really is windy? When the wind is coming from one direction, are you ever thinking, I would really love to putt into a direct tailwind or the direct headwind? Are you trying to be conscious of those outcomes?
Tailwind all day for me.
Okay, tailwind.
Tailwind is the most easy, so I can just putt high. Headwind, forget about it. You'll see me miss only like even 10 feet. You'll be like, phew, on air ball, like, yep, here I am. No, it's gonna be tailwind all day. And then also, I heard like this weekend it might be like wind chipping, like different direction. It's not just only like tailwind all time or headwind all time. The wind will be. It's gonna be we're gonna have a hard time this weekend. My drive, I can deal with it. My drive, but the putting, even you 30 feet, you're gonna have a hard time for putting.
So, where do you prefer to get that intel from? Is that something you and Justin discuss, or are you talking about that with other competitors?
Of course, Justin.
Yeah.
He know the wind better than me.
He's keen on the wind.
Yeah, he was like, whatever you want to land, you need to land behind the tailwind. I was like, I totally agree because most of the time he's right. But depend on me if I listen to him or not,
Yeah.
So,
So he's out there picking spots saying, hey, the wind's going to come from this direction. You need to land right here.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's not something I feel like we have, or a lot of other competitors don't necessarily have that. I want to actually ask you about your ability to focus after a major. I know, I can only imagine just how much focus it took to play U.S. Women's, to put everything into the chance at becoming a major. How do you just go right into another tournament the next week? How do you refocus?
I build different. I don't care about the past. I'm a move on person and I already forget about that. For me right now, the future, I want to do it good this tournament. And also even last week, I think I do everything I can, and it's just only a couple holes got me pretty good. But overall, I feel like I do great out there. I come back from 27 place to solo 4. When I make a 2 big mistake in the last hole, and otherwise I'll be solo podium, and that's very proud. Like I'm still very proud. I'm still have a great time, and I already forget about it, and I just like future woman, I believe. So yeah, let's go this weekend.
Cool. Thank you, Ohn.
Thank you.
Hello, future woman.
Hell yeah.
Let's talk about your practice this week. People were seeing you out here on Monday, already practicing bright and early right after you finished your major on Sunday. How is the practice going for you, and how does the course look so far?
Oh, I love the course so much this year. They are cleaning out. They make the course beautiful. A lot of holes is last year was like so many bush and so many like thorn. They clean it out, and now is the some hole only backhand. Now you can throw siam. Like it's give two more choice. I'm very exciting this year, and I think, like I said, I really love this court. Hole 18. Now I can do siam, another hole, and also the change 3 hole chaining. Now you're gonna see a lot of women go for it, make the putt, because before it was like on top of the pyramid, whatever, and then you see like bowling golf all day, layup. This year's gonna be different. So yeah.
So we're going to see some better scores out there.
Oh hell yeah, yeah.
One last question for me, Ohn. You had a wonderful ace last year, and that was just shown all throughout the rest of the season. When you stepped up to hole number 2 today, or what it was last year, did you get any good memories coming back? Did you try acing it again?
Every time. Every time when I walk to hole 2, I'm like, oh, this is the hole I ace. And actually, I almost ace when I practice. I was like, you never know, I might bring back the victory. But anyway, I think, but this year is, the wind is going to be so much problem with us. If the wind right to left, your disc will be all the way to the south, you know. So we'll see. But I would love to see somebody ace this year.
Was that the last ace that you've gotten? Have you gotten any since the ace here?
Oh yeah. I think last year I probably got like 2 or 3 more. I think last year I got like 3 or 4 ace, but I'm not showing up much. Yeah, it just, you know, I lost my count right now, so yeah.
Not a bad problem to have. Ohn, thank you so much. Here's just a few more questions.
Thank you, yeah.
Hi, Ohn.
Hello.
Juliana, Disc Golf Network. Brian touched on this as well. You are known for your strong work ethic and the hours that you put into your craft, which has clearly worked very well for you. Are you still playing multiple rounds a day, or do you try to conserve your throws to minimize the stress on your elbow?
Right now I cut a lot left. Last year I played 2 rounds. I putt like 400-500 putt a day. Now I only afford 1 round, and then putt maybe 100-150, and then I feel my elbow is already like getting pain. So yesterday I practiced. I throw like 2 or 3 discs per hole, and then I was feeling hurt my arm, so I didn't even putt yesterday. So today I take a day off, but I need to go putting maybe 100-150. So I could not afford to injury more. It's just gonna slowly heal, but so far, you know, I'm getting better, and I think next year will be gone.
So you do feel like it is getting better over the weeks?
No. Right now it's just the same. Still like 30-35% left. Still the same for so many months right now, but it can get worse if I'm not careful. But it's getting better. Nope. Maybe next year.
I'm sorry to hear that. Do you feel it simply on the sidearms, or do you also feel it on backhands and
backhand
putts?
and putting? Yeah, backhand and putting was like I feel the most, and sidearm was like it's no problem at all. It's just like so easy. Yeah, and also if I carrying something heavy, is the next day I feeling I'm like oh no, or even sleeping on sideways, whatever you call right side. Yeah. When I get out, I will be like, ooh, no. Yeah.
Well, Ohn, we wish you a very healthy season. You're an
you.
inspiration to all, and best wishes out there.
Thank you
this
so
weekend.
much. Thank you.
And we'll be right back in just a few.
Thank you.
All right, we'd like to welcome Robert Burridge to the press conference here at Brock Park. Robert, how far away is your hometown technically? Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up, I usually just call it Houston because
Yeah.
greater Houston area. But I think I live right on the edge of Houston and Pasadena down in like Space Center, Houston. So even though Brock is like kind of middle-ish of Houston, it's like 40 minutes from where I live.
Yeah.
It's not close.
So you're not staying with mom and dad this week?
So I stayed with them up until tonight, up until night before. Now I'm going to be staying on the course in the van just to make sure I have easier access. It's not as long of a drive. I don't have to worry about traffic, which is going to be nice. It's just going to be better, even though I wish I was staying at home.
Yeah. Well, I just learned that your parents played collegiate level ultimate frisbee, so they must be pretty proud that their son is playing a frisbee discipline professionally.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun because my dad's cleaning out our garage right now, and he just found like 100 frisbees from tournaments that him and my mom played, and all of them are just like back in like 96, 95, 94 when they were playing club, or back when they were in college, they'd always get like Easterns or Nationals whenever they went, and so it's just a lot of fun seeing kind of where they came from, whether it's ultimate or disc golf, because my dad is the one who got me into it, or where I come from now, because even I in college was getting discs from tournaments too.
Yeah. So what's the transition like from ultimate and into disc golf, and a little bit more zoomed in? Do you still feel like you have a bit of your ultimate frisbee throw in your current disc golf throw?
Yeah, absolutely. So the transition took a lot of practice, I guess, because throwing an ultimate frisbee and throwing a disc golf disc, even though they are both frisbees, I'm sure you know, fly extremely different. And an ultimate frisbee, you need that nose up, you need a lot of spin. Disc golf is a little more nose down, you get the power, especially on drivers. So what I would do in college when I was playing both at a high level was I would be out before practice throwing discs, and then I would play my ultimate practice, throw frisbees the entirety of it, and I'd learn to switch in that first like 5-10 minutes of throwing that every ultimate practice has. And then at the end, I'd stay an extra 30 minutes and throw discs again. And so doing that constantly, whether I'd practice that day, whether I didn't, helped me transition like that. And so now, even if I'm on the course, my forehand, especially up shots, still has that nose up spin if I need it.
Yeah.
But more often than not, I try to get it out, and I've transitioned so much between the two to where I don't really think about it anymore, which is I'm very thankful to have the ability to do that.
Yeah. Robert, it's coming up on 2 years, I believe, since you and Simon gave us one of the better finishes out on the Elite Series back in Des Moines. Is that still on your mind that you were so close? And also, Robert, what is keeping you from being on top? We know that it's not easy, but you showed us that you have the skills. What do you think is keeping you from competing for wins at these tournaments?
So, yes, I think about it now and again. Obviously, it's kind of hard not to think about stuff like that, especially, being so close, having it sort of taken out of my hands to a certain extent on the last playoff hole. But I look back at it with fondness instead of frustration or anger, because I'm sitting there like I played very close to the best of my abilities at that tournament. And, all props to Simon for winning, of course. But I think for me personally, it's just, I'm learning how to play on tour still. This is my second year on full tour. And, you saw Emerson win last year. How long did it take him to win?
Yeah.
You see some players that have been there for so long. How long did it take AB to win? You see those timetables, and they're not quick, especially when you're trying to play as more of a job instead of for fun. Because when I was playing that first year, I think Des Moines was the only tournament I cashed in on the Pro Tour. And I think that's because that was me going, just all out constantly. And when it clicked, it clicked. But when it wasn't, I wasn't even cashing. And so now I'm learning to play tour golf, which, there's a little more of that. I need, I would like to be paid this week kind of mindset, to where, last year I got top 30 at over half the events I played. And so for me, that was my, it was a consistent source of income.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think as I play longer and as I develop more skill and get more experience on tour, I'll work my way back toward the top, because I would like to be more of a consistent player, and I wouldn't just like to flash the top now and again. And so that's my mindset going into it. So I think it's just experience, and I think the longer I'm out here, the better chance I have.
Cool. Thank you for that, Robert.
Of course.
Hello, Robert.
What's up, Brian?
A few questions for you. First off, how's your finger doing? I know you've
It's good.
struggled with your finger splitting completely open. I know there's a lot of disc golfers watching this that have had the same thing happen. First off, what happened? And second off, how are you now?
So first off, it was at Waco. I was dealing with it for the first few days. It even started like a week before at Crush on the Concho in San Angelo, where it would split a little bit. And I was using super glue or new skin, and that would sort of seal it up real quick, and that would be great. But during that last round at Waco, I guess round 3 at Waco, it finally split to the point where I couldn't hold a backhand.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't throw. Every backhand was coming out nose up. It was coming out like 30 degrees left, and I couldn't throw a backhand. And that to me kind of pointed me in the direction of, all right, you need to take some time. You need to heal this. You need to learn how you can mitigate it, how you can play with it if it happens again. And so for me, I learned how to tape my finger. I got some advice from Nate Doss. Thank you, Nate. I basically just learned how to play with it. And during Austin, I played with tape the entire time, and I cashed. And I thought I was throwing fairly well. I didn't think the tape really affected my throws. And now, with even more time, my finger's fully healed, so I don't need tape. But I have tape if I need it. And I know how to wrap my fingers, and I know how to do it in a manner to where I can play at the top level again.
One last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you played for Magnum at
Yes.
University of Michigan, and I know you've had fond memories of playing for that
Absolutely.
team. And disc golf and Ultimate is just rooted in your family, but I want to zoom in on that time you spent at University of Michigan
Mm-hmm.
playing Ultimate. I feel like that's a program, being as prominent as they are, where you have to put your time in and you have to show up day in and day out and work hard, and you might not get the playing time you want right away. Do you ever take some of those life lessons from playing at Magnum and at University of Michigan into disc golf?
Absolutely. I think I took life lessons from Magnum. I took, it really transitioned on from soccer when I was in high school too. I was on club team and I was in my high school team, and both sides of that, transitioning into that Ultimate team in college, having the camaraderie and having the support within that group of like, hey, I'm struggling with this, can you help? Like I went to you to ask if you had any advice on tape, and you put me in contact with Nate Doss. I went to other players where I'm like, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Is there any way you can help me? And usually it's yes. More often than not in this sport, it feels, even though it's an individual sport, like there is such an incredible amount of camaraderie to where I'm never worried about, is this person wishing me bad?
Yeah.
It's I almost consider it a team, even though we're playing individually.
Sounds like you're feeling the patience right now. You're playing
Yeah.
the long game. Robert, good luck this week. We'll see you out there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And we'll be right back in just a few. And welcome back. Joining us now, a Texan, Emily Weatherman. Emily, 17 years old from Abilene, Texas. But we're looking at your stats from this year, and you've cashed at some big tournaments. And I believe this is the first time you're kind of seeing these big tour-level events. Is that correct? Yeah. Can you just tell everyone your story? Where did you find disc golf? And
So my dad got me and my mom into it whenever I was really young. I couldn't even tell you how old I was. And I wasn't like super into it in the beginning. My brother was also playing a lot, and he got pretty good. He's sidearm only. And we just all played as a family. Sometimes I wouldn't make it through a whole round. I'd kick a soccer ball around or whatever. But then my brother kind of started falling out of it, and I started getting more into it. And I think it was 2018 is whenever I started competing in tournaments, and I would have been 11, 12. And I was doing, as good as an 11 or 12-year-old could do. I played 2 junior world events in 2020 and 2021, or 2021 and 2022, and I placed 6th at one of them and 2nd at one of them. But I've just been trying to, climb up. I've been playing FPO for a long time, but for a while I wasn't taking any cash. I was just, keeping my AM so that I could play in junior worlds, but then I got caught up with $1,000 plus win, and I was like, I think I'm going to take that. So, yeah, now here I am trying to get on the pro tour, just trying to hit as many as I can without a tour card. It's kind of hard getting in. But, I'm here in Texas trying to ease my way into it,
Well, Emily, I see a lot of ones in your statistics. You've won quite a few tournaments, and there's a great women's scene, it feels like, across the great state of Texas. We just saw a phenomenal field last week at U.S. Women's at Sprinkle Valley. Are there any women in your local community or in Texas that you've looked up to or that you've enjoyed competing against?
So when I was younger, I was playing with a girl named Madeline Davis. We still play every now and then. She's from Amarillo. So she didn't really come down to West Texas as much because it's kind of a hike. But she was definitely a good one. And then, honestly, we don't really have like a lot of West Texas FPO players. So in a lot of those, like, I was either alone or there'd be like one person and be Maddie or sometimes Jenny Munn. But really, there wasn't that many from West Texas. So. Well,
let's talk about this then. You come from a place where there's not that many people in your division, and then you start traveling. You played Open at Austin, you played Waco, you played U.S. Women's, and now you're playing against the best of the best. Mm-hmm. Let's just go through those 3 tournaments. Start out at Waco. That's your first big one on the tour.
So Waco, first round, I shot a 1 down, and I was really happy with that. But then, like, as the tournament continued with 4 rounds, like, it got really exhausting, and I was pretty tired. Because my courses at home, they're not anything compared to that. Mine are short and open. So I definitely got exhausted, and I didn't play as well as I had hoped to. But I had a great time. It was a great experience, and I was happy to be there. And then the Open at Austin, is that the next one? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That one I definitely played a lot better in. I cashed in it, and that was my first Pro Tour cash. I don't remember exactly what place I got, but 22nd. There you go. I was pretty happy with it, honestly. I was just happy to be there, and I feel so grateful to have this opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you're playing against these professional players touring all over the country, is it enjoyable to see players throwing lines and learning different things from different people? Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so awesome. I need to get out there with some of them and learn a forehand because mine's definitely not that great, but I'm working on it. Well, there's certainly quite a few out here. I just appreciate your time, and good luck out there this week. Here's a few more questions. Thank you.
Hi, Emmy.
Hi.
Juliana from Disc Golf Network. You appear very poised on the course. Either you are very stoic or you're remarkably immune from pressure. Can you give us a little peek behind that curtain?
I definitely play better under pressure. I don't know why or where it came from, but when I have people watching, I tend to want to show off a little bit, and I just do pretty well most of the time. So
I have an idea where that might have come from. You mentioned that you don't have a lot of other women to play with, so you play with the men a lot.
I do, yeah.
Could that potentially bring that out of you?
It definitely could. There's been a lot of people crap talking, and I just have to, show up and show that I'm little, but I'm here. I'm here to play. So.
I think I know the answer to this, but do you aspire to be a touring player?
I do. I am going to try and hit up some of the Q Series events and try and get my tour card for next year. So.
Well, I had a front row seat to your play, and I was very impressed with your line control, your angle control, your strength, and make it known to the world, and I think you'll be able to get that tour card soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Emily, and we'll be right back in just a few.
Thank you.
All right, we'd like to welcome Chris Vandegrift to the press conference. Chris, you're the tournament director of this event, correct?
I am.
Can you talk about exactly when does the work begin for the event? You were joking about 3 months, but the tournament ended, late March last year. When do you actually start prep for the tour event?
Gosh, that's a funny question. There's a million different answers. A few years ago, Steve Stanley called me. He's the president of HFDS in Houston Disc Golf, and he said, "Hey, do you want to run Texas States?" And at the time, I said, "Thank you, but no. That's a huge undertaking." Things evolved, and we got into a position where it was a lot more feasible. One, we didn't really have the park to hold. The way that disc golf has advanced, we didn't have the facility, the course, to host a DGPT event, a true gold level course in Houston. Mm-hmm. This park became available, and then we kind of talked about it a little bit, and then the thing came up, and we pulled it off last year. It was my first Pro Tour event. It was a silver, but I know 3 days after We 3 days after the dust settled, we started in on it again. We go,
Wow.
hey man, are we going to do this again next year? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it bigger and better.
Yeah.
Um,
How did you
so-
choose Brock Park? You said it became available. What was it before, and how did it just become available to you
Gotcha.
guys?
So great question. Brock Park, this is a former traditional golf course. So the city put in a lot of money to revamp and revitalize this park. Put in a lot of money into the area. They had Neil Dambra came out and he designed a traditional, just a smaller red, blue level permanent course out here. Neil had me out as a consultant, gave him a little feedback and stuff. He put the course in. We knew that from seeing it out here that the rest of the park, the rest of the permanent course holds about a third of the property.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that the rest of the park had potential. So when the idea for States came up, we had a couple ideas, and we had 3 ideas, and 2 of the others were traditional golf courses. Now, as a course designer of many, many years, a pro player myself, and seeing the social media stigma and feedback about traditional golf courses, the other places didn't afford the same opportunities for design that this place has. One of the key elements that this property gave us was that we didn't have to follow a traditional path of traditional golf courses. We weren't relegated to these fingers. Instead, we had this big open canvas where we could use everything we could to its fullest potential.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be honest with you. Scotty Linthicum, husband of Christina Linthicum, former touring pro, he and I do a lot of work together. We trust each other greatly. We know each other well enough where we call each other on our BS, to be frank, and again, we work really well together. We came out here and toured Brock, and we were on little e-bikes, and we toured the site. We toured the holes 8 through 17 side of it, and we said, man, this is great. We can do a lot here, but we don't have enough. And we knew that we had this front section, but we hadn't explored it yet. So we drove. At the time, the park was closed. We got on our e-bikes and rode through a neighborhood down Tidwell, about a 3-mile round trip because we couldn't get across the bridge. Drug our e-bikes under the gate, and then we explored that area up in the front, which is holes 1 through 7 now. And once we broke that corner, again, that we had never seen, we knew we had something special. We said, this is something that Houston doesn't have. This is something that will be special. Gives us the area. And then, Brock, we just kind of, it was on a wing and a prayer, really. Hey guys, can we use this?
Yeah.
My buddy Steve Stanley, he's been a hard worker, again, president of HFDS and Houston Disc Golf. He had the contacts at the park. He made the contacts for us, made the introductions, and they said, hey man, you guys go ahead. Something that I'm kind of segueing into something with this is that last year the park wasn't open, but Houston Parks and Rec gave us the go-ahead to use the park. We did what we could, but we had, if you were here last year, you remember we had some restrictions and parameters and some hoops we had to jump through just to pull off what we did. 3 weeks after the tournament last year, HPAR reached back out to us and said, hey, you guys did something special. So the Pro Tour coming through here, designing the course, the success of the event, really it opened some doors between the disc golf community and the parks department. They're getting, post-COVID, they were getting the demand and the request, hey, disc golf, disc golf, disc golf. Mm-hmm. But when they saw something tangible, they saw the views on YouTube, and they saw, the views from DGN, and they saw the spectators that came out and the people from the area and the responses, Houston said, you guys are onto something, and this year they rolled out the red carpet, funny enough, they were like, hey, so what do you guys need, this year to be successful? And we go, well, pretty much is what we asked for last year, but, I say that jokingly, but, I'm
going to interrupt you and ask you, how does that connection, how were they able to see the success of the event? Like, does that require you just going to the city and say, hey, these are the views we got? Like, who is your contact over there? And how can we make that integration at other disc golf tournaments?
I'm glad you asked that. So for us, it was the boots on the ground. It was city management being out here, witnessing, seeing the festival. We were the center of the disc golf universe. Granted, we were silver, but we were legit the center of the disc golf universe for a weekend. They had people come out here and look at things, and they were impressed. The the policy and the program that you guys have for touring players coming in, I get that, and the professionalism that y'all bring, and then everybody working together and the community coming out, and the show that we put on together is, that reflects. Other than that, we were able to send them some YouTube links and some viewer numbers and stuff, and they were like, this is outside of our area, and these are people that are watching and highlighting your park that you just invested in, and that reverberated through the through the city council and through the parks department and stuff. I'll say this too, is that post event, Brock Park, it played really well on TV. I had people from Canada reaching out wanting to include Brock Gold on their board games and stuff. So all of this communication, I sent it over to the city and said, hey, this is the feedback that we're getting. So they had something tangible to wrap their head around.
Cool. Well,
Yeah,
thank
very
you for
cool.
that, Chris.
Yeah, well, thank you all. You are a part of it.
Hi, Chris.
What's up, buddy?
One question for you. As a course designer yourself, as a pro player that's seen a lot of shots get thrown from a lot of different people, a lot of different divisions, how nice is it to have a separate piece of land to design an FPO-specific course as opposed to just putting long and short tees, long and short baskets for both?
Gotcha. So, again, Scotty Linthicum, that's my buddy, that's my confidant, that's my partner in crime. Him having the experience on tour with Christina as a caddy and having course design experience, it was his dream to work on an FPO-specific course. So he shot me the idea. He said, man, I can do this, and this is what I'm thinking here. What do you think? And I go, dude, that sounds fantastic. He goes, I haven't heard of it a lot of other places. It's pretty rare, and we have an opportunity. Now, me being a course designer and also a pro age protected, I'm pro 50s now, I saw the challenge of, look, if we're having the same weekend with the FPOs and the pro age protected, I think between me and you, we can design a course that will appeal to both of those, and it'll be a little bit shorter, and it won't be something that will favor all of the big arm FP4 or MP40 and MP50 players. But I think we can create something here that would be super special. Now, heavy emphasis on FPO for sure, absolutely, that was the driving force, but something that would translate and apply well to both of those skill levels.
Smart.
And I got some feedback from some guys that throw really far and play really well, some high-rated Pro 40s, and they didn't play well out here. And they said, dude, I loved the course. Loved the OBs. Everything was designed well, but it got me. So good job. That was great. But to your question, how cool to design something specific to FPO. It was fantastic. I loved it. When Scotty approached me with it, it was like, dude, what do you need from me? You're the driver on this. I trust you, and I'll come in a supportive role.
Well, the scores certainly reflected that. So,
Yeah.
Chris, thank you so much. I want to give you one last opportunity. Any other people you need to shout out, things that you need to shout out?
Oh, gosh. I mean, a ton. Everybody, while we're here, Andy Young for being the driving force in Houston disc golf for many, many years. Steve Stanley, my buddy over there, for carrying the torch. Steve Story, Ryan Draper, all the guys that did this before me, paved the way, the new guys. I mean, I'm honored and privileged to, one, grab the baton for this year's Texas Swing, and two, to carry the torch. I wanted Terry Dillard and Travis Dillard for Lone Star Disc. They stepped in this year. I made a personal change, sponsorship change, and they stepped in and have provided a ton of help, a ton of resources. There's a million people that I could thank. One thing real quick, I want to shout out Jay Redding for being my voice of reason. He's one of the guys that's never shy to tell me exactly what he feels and thinks, and he's got fantastic insight. Other than that, again, a million people, and if I missed you, I'm sorry, but man, I love all you guys, and you're important to me.
Chris, thank you so much. The show's about to begin. We'll see you out there.
You bet. Thank you so much.
And with that, we're going to wrap things up. Round one starts tomorrow.